Hey, data streamer.
Hey, Gio, what's up?
Hey, I want to talk about religion. Religion in, I don't want to preach, but religion in cyberpunk,
Yeah.
in a cyberpunk setting. So, interestingly, I did see like articles about Gen Z and people, younger generations
Mm-hmm.
returning to uh, being Christian again to
Yeah.
find purpose or something.
Yeah.
Even though if because I would expect the the world to go more into atheist,
Yeah.
perhaps due to technology, and the
Mm-hmm.
access to information.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this wave of this, and even in cyberpunk, there in cyberpunk media there are always like religious religious groups.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Gen Z thing, yeah, and it's kind of odd, yeah. You wouldn't expect it, but I mean that's just a Gen Z thing.
Yeah, but I don't know, right? Maybe it's Christian propaganda, but
Well, I don't know about Christian propaganda, but it's like generally what happens with the generations is that they usually rebel against the previous generation.
yeah,
That's generally what generations do, and considering that like the atheism of millennials was fueled by the extreme conservatism of Gen X during the 80s and the 90s, the extreme religious conservatism of the 80s and the 90s, and the early 2000s. Um, with Bush and all that stuff. So it fueled an extreme. It fueled around the mid 2000s. That fueled an extreme atheistic movement. Well, okay, not really extreme, but it atheistic movement started to get popularized with like the Four Horsemen, like So the new atheist movement was an academic movement that started around the early 2000s or so, with Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, and Daniel Dennett. These were like these were guys that like of course they were atheists, but they also talked about atheism, not in a like dogmatic way, but in a like it's reason, it's logical, that kind of stuff, and the illogical is the religious are illogical, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of them. I mean, I have a lot of Richard Dawkins books. I mean, a big fan of Hitchens. Hitchens was the more like belligerent one of them. He was very good at debating. His debating skills were insane. It's like I don't know how he did it, but yeah, he was very good. He once said that when he dies, he wants to be recorded because he doesn't want religious people to say that he converted at the last minute, that kind of stuff. And he did it. He did, of course. He died in 2011, sadly, from throat cancer. Because he was like extreme drinker and smoker, so he didn't he was constantly talk about indulging in life's things. So that was that. But Richard Dawkins was the more academic one of them, because Richard Dawkins is also an evolutionary biologist. And Richard Dawkins is not just atheist. He's not just known for his atheist stuff. He's also the creator of the word meme. you know in his book in the 1970s, The Selfish Gene, he created the word meme, which means a piece of information that is passed on from by populations, by individuals inside the population, and like crosses populations just like genes do. And the more popular memes survive the longest. So thanks, Richard Dawkins, for creating the memes. Thank you very much. So so that was the new atheist. I mean, Sam Harris was just Sam Harris was a writer. And Daniel Dennett was a philosopher. So these are like the four big dudes. They call them the Four Horsemen, and they were the new atheist movement was preaching a more maybe preaching is the wrong word, but they were talking about atheism more from a academic perspective, and removing like the dogma and like, you know, that kind of stuff. And they would challenge religion via rational arguments, and you know, it was more like about the thinking man, the thinking woman, you know, that kind of stuff, and not the emotional side of things. It was more about the, you know. So that was popular. The entire new atheism kind of faded away around 2015 or so. Were kind of like the last things you saw about them, 2014, 2015, you know, sort of like that. But yeah, it was interesting times. But that kind of like showed the, like, how far the counterculture towards the previous generation was, with all their extreme dogmatic religious stuff. Like, they wanted to ban GTA because for the whatever, they want to ban Pokemon because of religion, you know, all these things. What are you talking about, man? It's just some monster cat. Who cares, you know, that kind of stuff. A Bush with like, God told me to start the war in whatever in Iraq, and that kind of stuff. It was like a God told him, and that kind of stuff, you know, those kinds of things. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. But let's go back to the cyberpunk religious
Yeah.
groups. So even still, like, if we go even more into the future,
Yeah.
types of religion groups will still exist.
Yeah, I mean that somehow humans can't just let go of religion. I mean, I'm an atheist. I was always an atheist. I literally never believed it when I was born. When my parents were talking about it, I was like, "What are you talking about? This is crazy." There are always going to be people who are atheists and who are born. It's kind of like Neo in the Matrix, which is like there's always a certain percentage of people that will not buy into it. They won't accept it. It just can't. It just doesn't work. That's gonna happen. So there was always gonna be this thing. In cyberpunk stories, you see that as well. But most people will always accept some kind of religious thing. So in cyberpunk stories, we see this reflected as well, where there is always religion. Somehow people just can't let go of the idea that whatever, there's more to life than whatever they see. It's ingrained inside the human mind, except for some people like me. But like, it's the religions that you have in a lot of these cyberpunk stories, firstly, because of the influences of cyberpunk, it's mostly like Western and Eastern. So it's a lot of Christianity and Buddhism. And also because of a lot of cyberpunk stories are influenced by Japan, you see a lot of Shintoism as well. A lot of these stories have a lot of these things in it. But also they also have religions that are from the stories themselves. Like the whole mother whatever religion weird thing that the guys from Maelstrom believe in. I forgot the exact name, but the
Maelstrom was the religious group in cyberpunk, right?
Well, they're not a religious.
2077.
Yeah. They're not religious group, but they are one of the factions in the game, and they have part of them have this whole religion about the mother or something like that. I don't remember. There's a quest line in the game where at the end of it you have this weird, you see this weird interaction between Maelstrom and some guys from some corpo. And also there's a cyber psycho in the game where it's like this crazy ritual to bring the mother or something like that. It's pretty crazy. There are theories that the mother or whatever they're worshiping is actually an advanced AI that's taking advantage of people's religious whatevers. But you know, that's also a thing that can happen, you know, because being taken advantage of as a religious person is fairly common to religions. You know, that happens all the time. So of course, in cyberpunk stories, that would be a thing that would happen. You know, that kind of stuff. You know, yeah. And then we see, like, for example, like there are some monks in Cyberpunk 2077 where they aren't allowed to have cybernetics, so they have no augmentations at all, nothing. There was one storyline where a monk was augmented against its will. So the guy was really sad about it against his will, and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was pretty crazy how that storyline went. Uh, but yeah, there's a lot of religious stuff in the game Cyberpunk 27, and of course in the broader Cyberpunk genre as well. Yeah.
So, in what way in Cyberpunk 2077 did Maelstrom like preach about the religion?
Well, they didn't explore it as much in the game, but there were a few things here and there, a few hints here and there. Like that one Cyber Psycho, that was just like a huge ritual site where they had like this like ritualistic cybernetic thing happening, because Maelstrom is the one that are all about full augmentation to the most extreme degree. They are going for it. They are replacing everything. They don't care. They really are into the cybernetic. So their religion is all about cybernetic augmentations and that kind of stuff. And there's this whole thing about Alpha Centauri, about like the going over there or something like that. That was part of one of the quest lines where you like found the weird Maelstrom religious sect like trading, making a deal with this other corpo for some tech or something like that. And so it's like this whole it's like Scientology. It's like they develop the religion around the technologies and the things that they know and they have. Because Scientology was created somewhere in the 1800s. Scientology. Oh, no, sorry. I mean, talk about Mormonism. Sorry, Mormonism was. Sorry, Scientology is different. We could talk about Scientology as well, but I mean, sorry, Mormonism was created sometimes in the 1800s, and there's a lot of like modern things in Mormonism, like more modern than Christianity. So you can tell it was created by people who have more knowledge of things, like in Mormonism, God is living on some planet somewhere. It's not just heaven. It's not.
Well, they
like,
believe Jesus came to America actually.
yes, Jesus went to the American continent, and there's like the lost tribe of Israel is over there as well. That kind of stuff. So you see that they developed the religion with. I mean, Mormonism is pretty much a sect of Christianity. They just updated a few things and changed a few locations of stories and blah blah blah, whatever. And then you have Scientology, which is a completely new thing, invented by a writer, and it's like completely science fiction. Lord Xenu, and it's like 1 trillion years old, and like spaceships, and you got thetans in your body that you have to remove by these. It's like, what are we talking about? It's crazy stuff. So like, but this one was like started like what, in the like 1960s or so, 1950s. I'm not exactly sure on the timelines, maybe even later, I don't know, but it's like completely influenced by modern science fiction stuff, because there's a lot of spaceships and like galactic wars and like that kind of stuff in Scientology. Even the name, like Scientology, like it's like, so Maelstrom in Cyberpunk being like this, having created as this religion around like their cybernetic implants, and like their mother is like a cybernetic mother, whatever, blah blah, completely logical and completely like, yeah, of course that's gonna happen. That is, of course, going to happen, that kind of stuff. And like what you said earlier, Zoomers are more into religion and that kind of stuff. There's like, it probably won't take long before somebody develops a religion around like, like social media TikTok shit, that kind of stuff. I am completely expecting something like that to be developed, like something about using social media as some kind of magic religious blah 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 thing. Next 10 years you're gonna see it. Timestamp this, Put a reminder. You're gonna see it. I predicted that. So Zoomers, like you said earlier, Zoomers seem to be becoming more religious. Yeah, because they're rebelling against the previous generations. That's always what happens. People rebel against the previous generations. It's kind of dumb. And it's always dumb when I see it, because especially when you look at fashion, like how fashion repeats itself. Zoomers are now wearing the shit that I was wearing when I was 16. The big baggy pants or whatever. I was like, dude, we agreed that wasn't fashionable anymore. What are you doing? Why are you breaking the agreement? People moved on. Why are you bringing it back? Chill out. Like that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of it's mostly that kind of stuff. Yeah. They're trying to kind of not be like their parents, and you get that kind of stuff. And then, of course, when you look at religions, they always develop in the context of the societies they are developed in, and you get these weird things sometimes.
I do have to think about, if we go even more into the future.
Yeah.
About religion. I do have to think about June, for instance.
June, yeah.
I mean, so they're in the first and second movie. They're all talking about Paul.
Yeah.
As him being the Messiah, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, heavily influenced by Western religion.
Yes. Well, it's Christianity type of thing. Islam, Christianity, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of that there. Yeah. But it's like the funny thing about Dune is that it's like, yeah, Paul is the Messiah, but Paul is a manufactured Messiah. The Bene Gesserit have been working for generations to create this Messiah. Bene Gesserit is like at least at this aspect of the Bene Gesserit, it's like a critique on the Christian side of things, where they are all about ensuring that the Messiah comes back. That's basically the Bene Gesserit, because the whole thing with the Christianity is that Jesus promised he would be back and take everybody to the promised land, and he hasn't been back. So there's like entire groups of Christians that are like trying to force the coming of Christ, because there are certain predictions in the Bible that says, or in the Torah that says, these things has to happen, and then the Messiah returns. That kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why Israel has a lot of support amongst Christians, because Israel needs to exist as a country for the Messiah to return. Because they have to build the temple again. The Solomon's temple has to be rebuilt, so that the Messiah returns. That's one of the things.
So if they build the temple and nothing happened, what will happen then?
What do you think? Well, they'll just say they'll just move on to the next thing. I mean, that's how they always do. It's like the conspiracy theorist guys. They always think of something new. But I mean, Bene Gesserit is a critique on that kind of thinking. But the difference is the Bene Gesserit worked all these years to make it happen, and then they finally did make it happen. Because it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy thing. They manipulated the people enough that they believed this guy was the guy, and then they followed him, and then they literally created his Messiah, thing, his legacy, because he had enough followers that believed it. That's pretty much religion, the question is if there is such a thing that can do that these days. I mean, probably. I mean, that's basically what all of these religions try to do. They try to get as many followers as they can, because that's how they survive. If they don't have followers, they don't survive. So they always have to promise something, and they always have to get followers. So that part of in most cyberpunk stories, that part is always present, and also in Dune, which is not a cyberpunk story, but it's a science fiction. In Dune, you see it as well. You see the Star Trek as well, where there's like there was like a Picard was accidentally came into contact with this highly religious planet, and then they started thinking him of God as if he was God or something like that. It was this whole thing, and then it's like, yeah, you can't if the funny thing about that Star Trek episode was that Picard tried to convince these people he wasn't a god by bringing him to his spaceship. And it's like, are you dumb? Like, it's like the Arthur C. Clarke quote. You know, everybody knows the quote from Arthur C. Clarke. It's like, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So like, if you show a phone to a guy from 1500s, a modern smartphone, he'll think you're doing witchcraft. You know, he'll be like, why do you have these people trapped inside this small box? You know, like, whatever. So like, the idea that to convince somebody you're not a god, you bring them up to your intergalactic spaceship. I was like, dude, you're just, and the immediate reaction of these people was like, oh, God is great, I can't believe it, look what the God could show me. The God showed me my planet from above. Oh, only a God could make these things. I was like, oh man, Picard, dude, come on, you should have thought this through. So that kind of stuff. So it's like, you can't really take it out of people. You know, people will always have it, you know.
Yeah, but especially like this Christian religion, right? Okay,
the influences of Dune and Christianity is fairly obvious. You can see it all over the place. Also, a lot of Islamic stuff. It's fairly obvious. I mean, also like in the Matrix as well. Like the influence of Christianity there are also fairly obvious. I mean, we've talked about before about the influences of transgender stuff in the Matrix, but also religion plays a big role. I mean, Neo. If you look at Neo, okay, in the first Matrix movie, where they pull him out of the thing, he's out for 3 days. You know, so that's there are three that you could count how many days passed based on the scenes. You could count how many days passed, and 3 days passed between Neo getting pulled out and him finally waking up. You know, so there's a lot of religious undertones in the Matrix as well. Wow. Yeah, so I mean, religion plays a massive role in everybody's lives. So of course these stories will have that, and we will be dealing with religion for the rest of human history. We're not getting rid of it. It's not going anywhere. So yeah, you know, it's just a weird psychological thing humans have. They like to invent these things, and they like to, I don't know, imagine whatever. So, you know, we're not getting rid of it. So a lot of these stories have this stuff. I mean, there's also the one crazy story in Cyberpunk 2077 where the guy crucified himself on TV, that kind of stuff. Everybody talks about everybody talks about that storyline like it's like the most amazing thing ever. I thought it was bullshit. I thought it was the dumbest storyline ever. It felt so dumb. I rather do the monk meditation thing that they force you into than that storyline. You know the monk meditation?
Hell yes. I mean, the monks look so dope, man.
Yeah, but
like it's a monk with cybernetics and
VR. Some monks, a lot of those monks aren't allowed to have cybernetic, but some of them do. So I don't know how that works. But this monk meditation quests are so annoying. You're literally there doing freaking chants and monk stuff for like several minutes in the game with like this visual. It's like, oh, breathe in, breathe out, whatever he tells you. And there's like a bunch of them. I rather do those quests than the freaking inmate guy that suddenly turned to Jesus and wants to crucify himself or some bullshit. This is the dumbest storyline I've seen. It's the dumbest storyline in the game as far as I'm concerned. It's really dumb. My last playthrough of that quest, I totally failed on purpose. I started shooting, I started fucking up. I didn't care. I just and then like everybody ran away. Everyone's like, "Oh, I can't believe it!" And whatever. And then Wakako calls me. Well, that mission failed, but whatever. I didn't like the guy anyways. Whatever. Let's get out of here. That kind of stuff. And it's like, whoop. Thank you. I'm out. Stupid storyline. Yeah, that was dumb. Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you everybody for listening to our episode. Please support us by liking and subscribing, and we will see you in our next episode.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
see you guys.
Have a nice day.
Bye bye.